Hello friends. So welcome to this lecture on Azure policies. So in this demo, particularly we'll see what are the different policies we have in case of Azure and how we can configure policies based on, let's say, certain locations. Let's say if there is an organization-wide requirement that okay, there are only two or three locations on which the resources should be provisioned from a legal perspective or from certain regulation perspective. So in that case, the resources should only be provisioned within those locations only. So we'll try to implement that one particular policy within this demo, and we'll see the number of policies we have. So to configure the policies, so we have this, if you'll click on POLICY, so there is a service we have in case of Azure to configure basically a policy. So you can see since I don't have a number of resources provisioned in case of Azure, so you'll see it is showing that okay, overall 98% compliance is there, one non-compliant, and this is basically due to the default policies which is created by default. So if you'll click on here, so this is the default subsequent policy which is created. So we'll discuss much detail onto this policy as well in the subsequent lectures. So just to assign a new policy, let's say. So if I'll click on policy and let's create a new policy for a particular resource and see what are the different policies we have. So let's click on assign policy, and the scope we have is I'll be using the free trial only. I'm not putting any kind of exclusions, so we can do that. And then the policy definition is like if we have certain kind of custom or built-in policy, then we can choose it from here. So what type of policy? It's saying that okay, all types custom built-in. So these are the options we can use. So I'll be choosing the built-in policy which Microsoft already has. So for example, if you want to choose the, so these are the different policies. Azure backup should be enabled for virtual machines, audit virtual machines without disaster recovery configured. And now let's say if I want to configure policies related to certain network security groups, then you can see if there are any kind of machines for which are having the public IP assigned. So in that case, it should give an alert, or so we can configure different rules that okay, network security group rules for internet facing machines should be hardened, gateway subnode should not be configured, and so diagnose settings for network security group should be enabled. Subnet should be associated with the network security group. So there are different type of policies we have in case of network security group. Virtual machine should be associated with the network security group. Similarly, if you want to search policy related to SQL, so you can say SQL managed instances TD protected should be encrypted with your own key. Vulnerability assessment for SQL Server should contain an email address to receive the scan reports, and TD encryption on SQL Server should be enabled. So there are different policies you can choose if you want to choose, let's say, role-based access policies. So you can, you know, this role-based access should be enabled on Kubernetes. So there are different policies you can choose it from. So let's say if you want to choose in for this particular demo that okay, only on few locations that particular resource should be provisioned, so we can do that. So let's say if I'll choose location, and in that case we can mention that okay, which all locations are allowed, and so you can use the description as well, and then allowed locations for resource group. So we'll choose this policy. In this policy, let's say if we'll allow a certain location, only in those locations we'll be able to create a resource group, and if we try to create that, it will throw an error. So I'll be using this particular policy and allowed location for a resource group, and the assignment name I'm not going to change it because it is pretty straightforward, and policy enforcement enabled, and then click on next, and then we'll choose the location that okay, in which location we want to choose this particular that resources group would be created, or from a compliance requirement only this is the location allowed. Let's say if I allow central India, and central India, see, and then I'll click on next, and if I'll try to create a resource, so let's create a managed entity, you know, and then so let's click on create. So it will take 2 or 3 seconds generally to create a policy assignment, not much more than that. So the policy assignment is succeeded. Now we have chosen the policy for Central India, that okay, resource group can be created within a Central India only. Now let's try to create a resource group within any other location. So let me go to the resource group and let's try to create a resource group within some other location. So I have chosen the free trial resource group name SA test location I'll mention, and then I'll choose the location Central US. Let's see if we are able to create it or not. So let's create. It will throw an error. So you can see that okay, it is throwing an error that policy assignment name and allowed location for a resource group. So this is the error you are getting from here. Now in, let's say if this policy is implemented, let's try to do a create a resource group in a Central India. Now let's again click on a resource group, click on resource group, SA test location, let's say, and now I'll choose the location as Central India. So let's choose the location as Central India. Okay, and now let's try to create that. Okay, we are able to create it or not. So it is creating a resource group for us and it will take some few seconds and a resource group will be created. So let's refresh it. It should have been created. Let's go to that resource is created. Now if I'll go to the resource group, you can see that SA test location is created successfully within the Central India because we have allowed the location as Central India only for creating a resource group. So this is it, friends. In this lecture, we discussed about the number of policies we have in case of Azure, and we created a policy based on a certain location that okay, in this particular location only resource group can be created. Other location, other for other locations, the resource group creation is not possible. So this is it, friends. In this lecture, hope the Azure policy concept is much more clearer to you. Thank you. Thank you for watching this lecture. Meet you in the next lecture.